Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking, and as always before the video starts, I want to use this opportunity to express my eternal gratitude towards those who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal or Super Thanks. I really appreciate your generosity, so thank you friends and have a blessed day. Before we move on to the video itself, I just wanna quickly apologize for my absence. I was recently caught in the middle of moving to a new place, and the stress of it all did not allow me to make regular updates. Good news is that it is done, and my videos will be uploaded more regularly. Thank you for your patience, and let's go on to the video itself. Now, today's video I want to start with the settlement of Marinka, where as a result of continuous offensive operations within Marinka city and around it, Russians were able to significantly advance here in this area, and as some, mostly of course pro-Russian resources suggest, fully captured Marinka city. And this is exactly how much territories Russians were able to acquire in the last 24 hours. More subtle reports suggest that Russians were able to capture about this much territory with a Russian flag placed in the very outskirts of the settlement, with the rest of the territory is still in a gray zone, with some small Ukrainian presence. Few hours ago, the news of a clearing operation conducted by the Russian forces surfaced on the Russian Telegram channels. So at the time of recording and at the time of you listening to my video, the possibility of that clearing operation and the full capture of the city is more likely. As you can see on the video, the small city of Marinka is nearly destroyed. This is a result of more than a year of heavy fighting. One of the reasons why Russians were able to significantly advance in the last few months here in this area is due to heavy reinforcements that arrived here in this area. And as you can see, those reinforcements really did break a camel's spine. Then from here, let's quickly visit the settlement of Avdeevka and discuss the situation here. Russian forces continued their offensive operations here in this area as they attacked in the general direction of Severne and Tonenke from the settlement of Vadiane, also attacked in the direction of Avdiivka itself from the settlement of Apitne, and also continued their attacks from the settlement of Spartak. Slowly but surely they were also advancing here in the industrial zone, adjacent to the city itself, and as you can see are very close to the outskirts of Avdeevka. Currently the fighting takes place in this forested area where Ukrainians had built significant defensive structures, dugouts, strongholds and trenches, and both Russians and Ukrainians have a hard fighting ahead here. When it comes to the northern flank, Russians had yet again re-entered the settlement of Stepove. So here you can see that territorial change appearing on this map yet again. Russians were also recorded attacking across the rail line in support of Russians fighting within Stepove, while Ukrainians counter-attacked in attempt to negate Russian success and drive them back behind this rail line. These counter-offensive operations require a significant amount of forces being concentrated in one place, and that place became the settlement of Berdichi. As Ukrainians concentrated their troops, Russians had no trouble spotting and destroying them before they were able to advance along these roads within Berdichi settlement and enter the Battle of Stepove. You can see that happening on your screen currently. It seems that after all, Russians were able to fully gain initiative on this front, and all that is left for Ukrainians to do is occasionally counter-attack in attempt to not stop but slow down inevitable Russian advances. When it comes to the settlement of Krasnogorovka, fighting continued here also, as Russians continued their offensive operation in the direction of Novokalinovo village, as well as attacked across these open fields along the rail line in the general direction of Achertenie and Novobakhmutivka. Ukrainians answered those Russian attacks with counterattacks of their own, and currently there is no territorial changes to report, as both sides are tangled in a pretty heavy fighting over the control over the northern flank of Avdiivka. From here, let's move to the settlement of Bakhmut and discuss the situation here. First, let's discuss what happened on the southern flank of Bakhmut in the last 24 hours. It would seem that at this point in time, Russians are able to hold their recent gains in Avdiivka village and have repelled all of the Ukrainian counterattacks in its direction, as well as in the direction of Zelenopilya and Kurdyumovka. Russians themselves were attacking here on this front, as they attacked in the direction of Klishchiivka and to the north of it in attempt to capture vital high ground, from which they will start recapturing Klishchiivka and will greatly increase their defensive potential in this area. When it comes to to the northern flank of Bakhmut, the situation is such. About a day ago, Russians fully captured the settlement of Khramova, and generally in the last week were able to significantly expand their zone of control in this area. Ukrainian side, however, still denies the fact of Khramova being captured by the Russians. However, several geolocated photos of Russians walking around within the settlement and showcasing Ukrainian casualties on the spot is proving otherwise. After the capture of Khramova, Russians continued their general offensive in the direction of the settlement of Bogdanivka. Now those attacks are not only coming from Yagodne and Berkhivka, but also from the settlement of Khramova, which, as you can see, puts Ukrainian forces in this area under a great stress, as those attacks are now coming from almost every single direction. Judging by how active the Russians became in the last weeks, we are sure to expect more territorial changes in favor of the Russian side in the near future. Then from Bakhmut, let's move to the Kupiansk front and discuss the situation here. As a result of offensive operations here in this area, the Russian forces were able to advance near the settlement of Orlyansky to the very flank of the Ukrainian-controlled settlement of Ivanivka and Novoselivka. Here on this picture, you can see exactly how much territories Russians were able to acquire in the last 24 hours. The situation across the whole front remains to be stable, as Russians continue to attack from the settlements of Pershetravny and Vilshana in the general direction of Ukrainian-controlled settlement of Petropavlivka. Also, due to the recent Russian gains around Liman Pershy, the settlement of Sinikivka is yet again in danger of direct Russian attacks. Currently, heavy battles are ongoing in this area as Ukrainians are battling out for the control of the village, and as I speak, the battle continues. Then from here, let's move all the way to the Zaporizhia, and to be more specific, Avdiivka front, and discuss the situation here. In the last 24 hours, both Russians and Ukrainians were active on this front, both attacking and counter-attacking each other across the entire front. Ukrainians were attacking from the settlement of Rabotina in the direction of Novoprokopivka and in the general direction of Russian-controlled villages of Rivne and Kampani, while Russians counter-attacked them in attempt to stop and not allow them to advance. And at the time of recording, there is no territorial changes to report. Russians were also spotted counterattacking around the settlement of Verbova, where in the last 24 hours, Ukrainians were also advancing ever slightly. Now, it is important to note that those attacks are of very limited action and is nothing like the ones that came in the very first months of Ukrainian counteroffensive. Now it is mostly of positional style of warfare, with mostly artillery, duels and counter-battery activities happening across the fronts. Now I also have a video of Russian TOS-1 flamethrower system firing upon Ukrainian forces that took refuge along one of the many force lines located here in this area. And then at last, for those who are interested in Kherson Oblast and questioning me every single time what's happening here, I must report that there is not much happening. To this day, Ukrainians are still unable to expand their bridgehead within Krynki settlement. They are currently fighting within the force lines, however unsuccessfully, as Russians continue to counterattack them in attempt to throw them behind the Konka River and recapture the remainings of the Krynki settlement. In the background of all of this, again, artillery duels and counter-battery activities is happening, while Ukrainians are doing everything in their power to transport as many troops as possible across the Dnipro River and to do rotation as successfully as possible. However, it is not the case. For example, here on the video, which unfortunately I will not be able to show fully due to the YouTube restrictions, we can see a group of Ukrainian forces advancing in the direction of Dnipro River shore as a part of a rotation mission. Unfortunately for them, they were quickly spotted by the Russians and destroyed on the spot. Now, the uncensored version of my video is posted on my Patreon channel, so please consider joining it. Not only will you support me financially, but you will also get to watch my videos without advertisement and without censorship, so I guess it's a win-win. And anyway, let's continue. There is another video of a Ukrainian motorboat being hit by Russians somewhere in this area also. Again, most pro-Ukrainian sources are glorifying this recent Ukrainian capture, however are almost completely neglecting the fact of extremely heavy losses due to the difficulties of transporting troops over the Dnipro River. So this is it about Kherson front. As you can see, basically a stalemate, with Ukrainians slowly losing this whole battle overall. With this, I end today's video. Again, apologize for the recent absence. Hopefully the situation will get better for me. As always, if you like this video, please consider supporting it by liking, commenting, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribing. Those actions are very important and helpful for this channel growth. Thank you in advance. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.